make a video specifically for my brother and my sister, but also for anybody who wants to hear. This is something that's been life-changing to me, and I don't think I've ever shared it with them. And it says in Romans 10 that anyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But how can they be saved if they don't have faith? And how can they have faith if they haven't heard the good news? So I just wanted to share the good news, just specifically about my decision 10 years ago to give my life to Christ. And I read in the Bible where it says, Jesus healed somebody or touched them or changed them, and then they immediately ran back to their family, to their village, to tell them, and that brought other people to know the Lord, changed their lives. So I just wanted to take time to share my story. So it started about 10 years ago. I remember I was living on my own, and I just moved back home after a really bad breakup. I was really good friends with a girl, and I just remembered wanting to do anything to go out with her, and it was years and years, but we kept getting closer and closer, until we were best friends, and then we actually started dating, and I was so excited, and it just felt like my dreams were coming true. And then after about a week, she broke up with me and found out she was already seeing another guy when we were dating. And it just really sent me into a downward spiral. When I was living on my own, I was drinking a lot, but it was just partying, just more casual. And I had some friends who would hang out with us, but started getting more into drugs, and at the time I couldn't understand why they'd want to spend their life doing drugs. And when I was hitting rock bottom, I just started hanging out with them more, and I remember getting high for the first couple times, and I didn't like it, but it was a good escape at the time. It pretty much became my lifestyle. My goal in life was just to get high, and I would do about any drug that anybody put in front of me. I remember being high for about a month straight, and just waking up. Every time I got in my car, I'd smoke, I'd snort, anything, just to feel some sort of escape, and it consumed me. That was my lifestyle. So I'm pretty much doing drugs as my life. I'm working, and then after work I had a part-time job at a law firm, and so they hired me to do lots of filing in the basement, but it used to be a funeral home, so I spent a lot of time in the basement. I remember specifically God, in the Old Testament it talks about the Spirit of God being on somebody or leading somebody, and I was just going to work and listening to music and getting high, but I really felt like the Spirit of God was, I didn't know it at the time, but He was guiding me, and I felt like there were nudges in my life where instead of doing what I normally did, felt like I was supposed to do something else, and when I did it, I felt like there was more peace, and there was sometimes rewards or just something, confirmation. And I was never a musician at the time, didn't write songs or anything like that, but 2 days before I gave my life to the Lord, I remember distinctively hearing a song and writing it down, and I had the lyrics just came to me, the melody just came to me, and I still remember it to this day. It said, "It's 2 days till this day becomes my last, and I'm still dying." I kind of had that same emphasis for the first verse, and the second verse said, "It's one day till this day becomes my last," and then the third verse and the final verse said, "It's that day that I first spoke about." And to me, it was just something really creative and cool that was just coming out of me. And so I wrote it down, and I kept it with me just because it was something I'd never done before, and I thought maybe it was me, but it wasn't me. At the same time, I was listening to a group called Saves the Day, and the main track that I was listening to is called At Your Funeral, and it talks about getting high and 2 floors down in the back room getting high, and it was funny how all these things were kind of coming together, and it just felt like something was going on. I didn't know what it was, and I had the CD with me because I was listening to it non-stop, and part of my job at the law firm was to kind of do maintenance type cleanup work, and it was in January. I remember bringing down the wreath hanger from the back door, and they called me up to get the one from the front door. And normally my personality is to just jump right at it and just help, but I felt like I was supposed to say, "Hold on." So I took the CD and the wreath holder down and put them on the dehumidifier in the basement where I was doing drugs all the time. And I went back up and got the front door wreath holder, and when I came back down in this pretty old dark basement, it just had 2 fluorescent lights, and I remember walking down and the CD cover was sitting on the dehumidifier, and it had a guy running through a field with the sunset in the background, and right where the sun was supposed to be, it gets cut off, and I had laid the wreath holder right next to it, and when I walked down, somehow light was reflecting off of it so bright that I almost couldn't look at it. I had to step out of the light to see that where the light was reflecting on this gold wreath hanger, it was almost like completing the picture on the CD cover, and that sun was right where it was supposed to be. I'll never forget how bright it was and how it caught my attention. And I just thought, man, I was almost on a high from all these things happening and just feeling like, what are the chances? And I didn't know what it meant, but I used that wreath hanger to go through the CD, and I was reading, the lyrics, and they're very descriptive, and I remember using that wreath hanger to make mirror images of the pictures in the CD that were almost like a film strip, and I could see these descriptive, specific lyrics, and it was so clear to me, and I even showed some other people, and some of them saw it, and other ones were pretty skeptical, and they just kind of laughed it off. And it had been a couple days of just being obsessed with this and feeling like the things I'm seeing with the CD and the music stuff and the nudgings that I felt God, I felt like they were just coming to a head. That it was coming to a point, and I was really feeling empty. And so I was just sitting by myself in the basement of this old funeral home, and I started thinking about my life, and it just felt like inside I was dying, and the way I was treating my body was dying, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, for the first time I was just still. And I pulled out that song that I'd written. I had no idea, I'd forgotten about it because I was so obsessed about this other CD that I sat there and read the lyrics from the day that I wrote it to 2-3 days later. And it says, "This is that first day that I spoke about." And I just remember thinking, if I keep living the way that I am, I'm going to die. I can only do this for so long. And in some respects, I was dying that day. I was dying to myself because I got down on my knees. And, it's not like I had anybody specifically trying to lead me to the Lord, but I just said, God, if you're real, come into my life, come into my heart. And I just remember instantly feeling the Holy Spirit. I just had like a tingling feeling all over. I had new eyes. Everything looked different. Everything just looked so beautiful to me. And I had done drugs, and I had felt high, and this was something completely pure. And I remember reading in the Bible where it talks about Jesus healing the blind or telling the lame to get up, and it says immediately they were healed. And I felt that same healing in me, and I'll never forget it. So in some ways, I'm kind of glad it's been 10 years, because I can look back over those 10 years and look at the time before that and just know this was the best decision of my life. To follow Jesus, to give my life to Him, to seek His will first. And just, there's so many moments and times of just seeing His faithfulness, seeing the Spirit work in my life and my kids' lives. And I've had my times of backsliding. I remember Mike, my brother, one time, just wanting to hang out with him and just going through another bad time and still getting high, but it was never the same. And I remember him saying, I thought you were done with this crap. And I was, but I was just fighting the good fight and getting out of that lifestyle because it didn't do the same thing to me, and I knew it. God's Spirit was still in me, and it was just fighting the worldly desires. But God is faithful, and He's helped me stay free from those addictions for many years. I had a friend, co-worker, pass away the other day. He was 43, and just got me thinking. I don't want another day to go by without getting my message out there. And I just want to testify to the truth and just to share the good news that giving my life to the Lord is the best thing I've ever done.